with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the Lakers, whether or not they're ready for this season, and my overall thoughts on their preseason matchup against the Warriors. So, JJ Redick, the other day before matching up against the Warriors, he came off of his first preseason win against the against the Milwaukee Bucks, and they came back they went on a 20-0 run in the fourth quarter, which is obviously a very good sign and a very bad sign for Darvin Ham and Doc Rivers and the incredible coaching duo that they are. And so, obviously, there would be a bit of extra motivation going into this matchup against the Warriors, and any sort of matchup going up against the Warriors, the narratives behind that, LeBron against Steph, LeBron's team against Steph Curry's team, which team is going to be better, and of course, Golden State ended up being better by default just because they're Golden State and because LeBron wasn't playing that well in this game. And spoiler alert, neither was his son. Both of them played pretty poorly. I believe they combined for 8 points. LeBron had 6. Bronny had 2. So, yay, Bronny had points up on the board for the first time in forever, it feels like. But, yeah, aside from that, they ended up losing 111-97. Anthony Davis, he was the highlight of the night for the Los Angeles Lakers. He ended the game with 24 points and 12 rebounds, and he shot a very impressive 10 for 14 from the field. However, the rest of the team really struggled. Really struggled. Dalton Connect ended up going 5 for 13 from 3, just pitiful, 6 for 15 from the field, but he did end with 19 points, so that's something. The three-point shooting is a little bit suspect, but that can easily be worked on. Roy Hachimura, 5 for 14, 1 of 5 from 3, ended with 15 points. Austin Reeves, 3 for 8, 2 for 6 from 3. LeBron James, 2 for 10. Actually, wait, no, excuse me, that was D'Angelo Russell who went 2 for 10 and went 2 for 6 from 3. And then LeBron James went 3 for 9, only accounting for 6 points, as I mentioned previously. And Bronny James went 1 for 5, 0 for 3 from 3. And other players on the roster, Max Christie, 0 for 3, Gabe Vincent, 0 for 5, and Jalen Hood-Schifino, 0 for 6. So, yeah, this team is only going to go as far as their three-point shooting can take them. They shot 27% from 3 in this following game. So it's really bad. If you're going to be a 3-point shooting team, JJ Redick has stated previously that he is going to try and implement a system that encourages a little bit more 3-pointers because that's usually how you're supposed to run an offense now in these days. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just half the battle is going to be making those 3-pointers. We saw this problem with the Houston Rockets. Thankfully, they had James Harden. James Harden was a freak show back in the day and was able to average 38 points per game and facilitate good enough to allow the 3-point shooters to be great on the roster and give them open looks. This same concept is going to be applied here. A little bit different, obviously, because JJ Redick has a little bit more of a different scheme and plan for these Lakers, but they're only going to go as far as their 3-point shooting. And if 27% is their best at 3-point shooting, then this is not going to be ideal. The total field goal was 11 for 40. They took 43 pointers and only made 11 of them, which is terrible. Just terrible. They also shot only 35% from the field. But despite this, JJ Redick said that he was pleased with the shots that the team was able to generate. As he said, quote, "I was highly encouraged with the shots we got. Highly encouraged. It was when we didn't trust our offense and got a little stagnant, ball stuck. Ball stuck, that's what he says. That was the beginning of that quarter. We had 19 points, I think, in the third, and AD had 8 on 4 straight possessions in iso ball, which I called those plays because AD hadn't touched it. That was just, we didn't have good offense that quarter. That happens sometimes, and it's a growth opportunity, a learning lesson for our group. Our execution, ball movement, passing, all of that stuff, and I'll rewatch it, but I thought it was great in the first half. We just didn't make shots. And that's a human nature. It's a tendency of groups of players. I've lived it. A lot of these things I've lived. So I have some experience in some perspective on it. You stop trusting it, and you start thinking, I got to get myself going. That's not how we want to play, and that's okay. It happens. We'll get better. I was very pleased with the type of shots we generated. And look, given their size and given Draymond as a savvy player, this was not going to be a heavy rim game for us. It just wasn't. So again, I just thought the start of that third, I didn't like how we played. So he seemed to be more concerned of the shots that they were generating as opposed to the fact that they weren't making shots, which in a preseason game, that makes total sense. Like, you get a better feel. Like, as long as you take high percentage shots, really, that's a good thing. Like, that's really a good thing. Now the half the battle is just making those high percentage shots. And he believes that that's something that they're going to develop as the season, unfolds. And I do like that thought process, and I do agree with, like, okay, you're getting the shots that you need. Now you just have to make it. Like, that's a pretty solid start. However, I am a little bit afraid of what happens if they continue with this mindset. I mean, imagine if it's a very, very important playoff game and you see that your team is struggling in hitting shots. What would be your game plan then? Like, because, yes, you do have to get your players going and you do have to, like, I understand trusting the three-point shot, but there's also the saying, you live and you die by the three. So trusting in it a little bit too much could also be a bad thing for the Lakers. And I'm very curious to see what exactly would be the play calling and what would be the next move if the three-point shot isn't really falling. What would be the shot that the Lakers try to look for next? And what would be the offensive system that the Lakers would try to encourage players to sort of get it going, I guess you could say. Because your three-point shooters and shooters in general, they're going to feel a lot better when they're making shots. It's just a confidence thing. That's always going to happen. But if they're not making shots, or if their teammate isn't making shots, then it could hinder their confidence and prevent them from either wanting to shoot the three ball more or prevent them from even taking a three-pointer. And it's sort of like, it's a very difficult thing to manage, and it's a very difficult thing to trust, in my opinion. Like, I have no problem with trusting the three, but trusting it too much could be your downfall. And you sort of need, like, a good enough backup plan. This is sort of, in my opinion, I think the reason why they're going to use, or how they're going to use Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Whenever the team isn't able to get going, I think they're going to try and rely on Anthony Davis and LeBron James to get the team going and try to get some sort of momentum if the three-point shot isn't falling. But that's LeBron and Anthony Davis. What about the rest of the team? I'm very curious to see how this goes. But he does think that they're ready and that half the battle is just going to be making the three-pointers. And that comes with practice. So a little bit too at ease, I think JJ Redick is being. Just a little bit. Again, I totally understand, like, the thought process. And I actually have no problem with this thought process. You're able to generate open shots. That is a very good thing. And it's just now the half the battle, and I know I keep repeating myself, but that is very important. You got to make those three-pointers. And if your team can't make those three-pointers, I'm very curious what would be the next step. Like, at least with the Bucks, if they're not making three-pointers, then they have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's just a force of nature. And while I do think that, yes, LeBron is a force of nature as well, he is still pushing 40 years old. So I don't really know if that's going to be a reliable thing to count on as the season progresses. Again, I know it sounds like I'm doubting LeBron, but I genuinely have these kinds of concerns, especially if what would happen if LeBron or Anthony Davis gets injured, because God forbid that happens, but that is still a very huge possibility, especially regarding Anthony Davis, considering how Anthony Davis is now playing in these preseason games and he played in the Olympics. He basically continued to play basketball throughout the entirety of the year. And again, injuries are going to be a very dangerous thing and something that I feel like the Lakers should be wary about. But he did say, quote, "We're ready. Just continue to build trust with what we're doing." Again, I'll rewatch it, but our off-ball roles were very clear. They're very clear. We practiced that. We worked on it again today. When we made stuff up, they hurt us. So you just have to trust it. I thought our guys, when they were in lock and trail and chasing and following our off-ball screen rules, they did a really nice job. And when they didn't, they hurt us. They got layups, they got open threes, and that's the biggest thing. There's some stuff we'll continue to clean up, some stuff in transition defense that wasn't particularly good. You look at that, and then you look at us really just making mistakes in our off-ball rules. That's how they got 52 points in the paint. And that's what this team does. That's what the Warriors do. You have to trust what you're doing defensively. With the season opener against Minnesota in less than a week, Redick will need to use these final 2 preseason games to ensure that they are indeed ready. And that's all that I really have on this second segment. So, are they ready? Not entirely sure. I think it's a little bit more complicated than just, we're getting the open shots, we're good. Like, I feel like it should be like, okay, now we have to start hitting the open shots. And I understand that comes in time, but I feel like there should be some concern in case you don't make some of these open shots. But that's just me. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, whether you guys think the Lakers are just going to be the good old Lakers and constantly collapse like as usual in the midseason. Then they rejuvenate after All-Star break only to get wrecked by the Denver Nuggets. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But aside from that, we're going to go ahead and go into the third segment where I talk about Victor Wembanyama and his priorities of winning something more than an NBA championship. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.